In July of 2023, Futurama changed forever. For better or worse, a new season released 24 years after Space Pilot 3000 and 10 years after Meanwhile, the most recent in the show's longer-than-average string of series finales. A decade is the biggest gap Futurama has had between seasons, a big enough gap that I questioned if bringing the show back was a good idea. I loved the thought of new episodes as long as the show still had the same spark that had kept its fans wanting more during its previous runs. Anything less than that, I realized, would only tarnish a once great show that had ended nearly perfectly. About a month after the release of Season 11, or for you purists out there, the first half of the 8th production season, I did a live stream in conjunction with the release of my video, Overthinking Fear of a Bot Planet. In that stream, I reviewed all 10 episodes of the 11th season and tried to answer a number of outstanding questions, like, should the Hulu renewal have even happened? Had the creators succeeded in recapturing the magic after their 10-year hiatus? Could they possibly top the near-perfect ending that was Meanwhile? Shortly before the release of Season 12, I took the audio from that livestream and cut it into a more concise form, and that's what you're about to hear. My delivery wasn't always stellar, and you'll hear the occasional wording flub and audio glitch, but I chose to use this audio rather than re-record it because it captures some raw moments that I wouldn't be able to recreate. There's some unfiltered emotion and some off-the-cuff thoughts at points where I went off-script. The uncut version, contained within the live stream, has even more of this kind of thing, and also includes conversation with viewers in the live chat who asked questions and shared their own thoughts. If you'd like to hear that version, the link to the stream archive is in the description. If you'd rather stick with the edited version, that begins right now. Futurama Season 11 Review. After multiple cancellations and renewals, Futurama still has a devoted fan base nearly a quarter century on. It also happens to be my favorite show of all time. Not that anyone cares about that. I'm not the arbiter of what's good and what's not, but it's worth mentioning so that everything I'm about to say can be interpreted through that lens. If you ask fans about their favorite episodes of Futurama, or at least the most memorable ones, they'll probably talk about the ones that made them feel. Feel what? Well, anything, as long as they felt it intensely. Yes, it's also incredibly funny and intellectually stimulating, combining science, philosophy, and satire in unique and clever ways, but what really sets it apart from other shows is that it has heart. In a 2001 interview with Sci-Fi Weekly, series co-creator and executive producer David X. Cohen said the following with regard to the team's priorities in creating a Futurama episode. The biggest consideration is that we actually do still have to have an emotion story, and I don't necessarily mean it's a tearjerker, but I mean the characters must have understandable human motivations for doing the things that they do in the episode, and that there's some real conflict of some kind, either between two characters or between one character and their circumstances. Throughout Futurama's multiple runs, the creators pulled this off in spades. If you ever want to make a nerd cry, just mention Jurassic Bark, aka the infamous dog episode. But it doesn't stop there. Leela's anguish at losing Fry in The Sting, Bender's terror and Hermes' compassion in Lethal Inspection, or the moment where Fry enters his mom's dream at the end of Game of Tones are all moments that help turn me from a casual viewer into a devoted fan. Not every episode is such an emotional roller coaster, nor should it be, but even in the most absurd situations, Futurama's characters seem almost real. Their flaws, fears, and relationships, both positive and negative, drive the best stories of the first 10 seasons. Enter Season 11, a show reborn after a 10-year hiatus. I have long thought, even before knowing the show would come back on Hulu, that if they ever brought Futurama back, they'd better bring it back strong, or not at all. If it didn't start off at least as good as Bender's Big Score, and preferably as good as Rebirth or better, and if it didn't recapture the spark that made us fans fall in love with the show, then it shouldn't come back at all. I'd have been happy with it remaining a complete and finished series that I still thoroughly enjoy rewatching. Did Season 11 reach the lofty bar I've set for it? Actually, I'd argue that the creators set the bar for themselves, but the answer is both yes and no, ultimately leaving me undecided about whether or not I'm happy they brought it back. Yes, because the spark that sets Futurama apart from other shows is present in Season 11. In fact, there are some moments of Futurama brilliance, but also no, because that spark feels like it's been smothered and is sometimes completely absent. That's unsettling to me. Prior to Season 11, not every episode was a masterpiece, but I don't ever recall feeling like I was watching some other show. In Season 11, that feeling crept over me multiple times. Why? Have the creators lost their passion? Does their new production deal limit them in ways that cause the quality to suffer? Is it simply that the show needs time to find its legs again? I don't know the answer. I can simply hope that Season 12 will push me off the fence in the direction of feeling happy that the series was revived. Season 11, Episode 1, The Impossible Stream. Although it keeps with the tradition of poking fun at its own cancellation and renewal, and there were some pretty good zingers along the way, The Impossible Stream lacked the substance, heart, and character-driven story that's at the core of any good Futurama episode. The overall plot was okay, it had some delightful moments, but the behavior and motivations of the central characters were simply not believable. Yes, Fry is dumb, and deciding to watch every show ever made is a very him thing to do, but the jump from I need to stop wasting my life to set a goal to I'm going to watch all of the TV is just not believable in the way it happens. Similarly, Leela's reactions felt out of character and contrived. It all boiled down to Fry wants to accomplish something, and Leela wants to be a supportive girlfriend, with no complexity or nuance beyond that. These paper-thin motivations are a disservice to the characters and their relationship that we've watched develop over 10 seasons. There was an opportunity for something more, a heartfelt episode about Fry struggling with getting older and feeling like he's wasted his life in the future as much as he did in the past. There could have been an exploration of why Fry chose the TV goal, or a meaningful turning point where he realizes the emptiness of what he's doing, maybe even grows as a result. All of this could have been accomplished without sacrificing the humor and zany hijinks. But instead, Fry is hidden away in a full bodysuit for half the episode while Leela runs around on a mission to save his life that's obviously doomed from the get-go. Yes, there are some laughs along the way, but they don't make up for the striking lack of substance in this reintroduction to a once great series. Season 11, Episode 2, Children of a Lesser Bog. If you thought my previous review was harsh, you might want to skip this one. Children of a Lesser Bog is, in my opinion, the worst Futurama episode in existence. The jokes and one-liners feel random and half-baked. The B-plot about the honey candy was as unfunny as it was pointless, and the main plot didn't seem to know which way it wanted to go. It just starts off with Amy struggling to adjust to motherhood, transitions to her feeling jealous because she thinks the kids like Leela more, and then shifts to this weird parenthood challenge from the grand midwife because Amy didn't contribute any DNA to the kids. The plot changed direction so fast and so often that I got mental whiplash from this episode. Any one of these subplots could have been an entire episode, but instead they were jammed together into a jumbled mess that barely scratched the surface of any of them. Leela being the cool aunt with the added complication of being the kid's DNA mama could have been an awesome episode, but at no point did I feel any real connection between her and the kids. She's in some kind of wide-eyed stupor for the whole episode. And the parenthood challenge was absurd. It undermines the well-established premise that the one who made Kif receptive to pregnancy is considered to be the mother. That's established to be the way it works in Kif's culture. And also, this is off script, but the start of the episode where she says, having a family with Kif is the only thing she's ever or the only thing she wants right now. Like, she's in the 20 years since the kids were born and went off into the swamp. She's grown and she's ready to be a mother too. It felt a little artificial in that she had no apprehension. Like, there was no moments of, oh, I'm scared, but I really do want this. It felt a little fake for that reason. But even if you ignore that, all of the build-up fizzles into nothing when the midwife asks, do you really love these kids? And that's it. The challenge is over. There hasn't been a less satisfying climax since Fry made love to that radiator woman from the radiator planet, especially since, and this is key, at no point in the episode was Amy's love for the children ever in question. That irks me to no end. That's what they chose to come down to at the climax. Do you really love these children? Okay, then yes, you're their mother. I didn't question that anywhere in the episode that Amy loves these children and wanted to be their mother. Hate it so much. I was really disappointed with this one. I don't know if you can tell. Now, there is stuff I liked about this episode. I like the addition of Amy and Kif's kids. They have funny personalities. I think they're going to be a great addition to the show. I enjoy seeing them on the screen. I do like the kids and their personalities and how different they are, and that they suddenly have this family of differently aged children, but they found a way to make it work scientifically, because they were all in the different temperatures of water and developed at different rates. So I liked that, and it's nice to see the character development of Amy and Kif now being parents. Also, we get to see Kif kick ass. And it's really awesome. And you guys know how much I like Kif if you've seen my other videos. Season 11, Episode 3, How the West was 1010001, which, fun fact, that is binary for the number 81, which is the atomic weight of the element thallium, which features very heavily in this episode. So there's a joke right in the title there for you, or at least a kind of a geeky reference. This is where things started to go uphill for me in this season. Funnier jokes, nerdier jokes, poking fun at crypto, entertaining side characters, and the mock Old West setting made for a fun episode overall. Bender becoming obsessed with something mundane, in this case a donkey, is always quite hilarious. And the scene where he rides Rusty, his donkey, while playing an Old West song and singing about his ass was the moment I started to feel like I was watching Futurama again. And then came the 3D shootout, which was a fantastic sci-fi twist on the classic Old West trope. On top of it, you had Dwight saving his dad using limbo, and this was Futurama magic recaptured. Now, the episode wasn't without its issues, the worst being that Fry and Leela still felt like flat Family Guy parodies of themselves. Their jokes weren't funny, their dialogue was cringe, and there's zero chemistry between them. Some might argue that there's never been romantic chemistry between Fry and Leela, and that might be true, but at least their friendship used to be palpable. Deeply dysfunctional, but palpable. Despite its flaws, How the West was 1010001 gave me hope that things were about to get better. Season 11, Episode 4, Parasites Regained. This was a tough one to review since I don't really get the Dune references. I hope that doesn't rob me of too much nerd cred. Anyway, it was a generally solid episode after the 2-minute 30-second mark. The opening, which reestablishes that Nibbler is a super intelligent being, was super cringe, in my opinion. All the main characters know that Nibbler is intelligent. He hasn't hidden his intelligence from the crew since Bender's big score. And there have been several episodes since in which he plays a key role, so nobody should be surprised by him talking, least of all Leela. The Nibbler you can talk thing feels like an attempt at a silly Family Guy style joke, which just doesn't work here. Especially since the episode's emotional stakes are built on Leela having an established relationship with intelligent Nibbler, not dumb house pet Nibbler. It's this kind of thing that really bugs me about this new season. Throwing away established character traits for a cheap joke robs the characters of their depth, which is what made this show so great in the first place. Anyway, like I said, it was pretty good for the remaining 21 minutes and 10 seconds. 3D crossword puzzles and quantum wordle are some of the most Futurama things ever, and Leela's emotion at the prospect of losing Nibbler finally made her feel like a real character again. The ending tugged my heartstrings, but only on a repeat watching. The first time I saw it, I was too numb to notice. Numb because at the time, I felt like my favorite show was being reduced to a hollow shell of its former self. But then came 2 episodes that I liked. Related to items you viewed felt like it would fit nicely with a classical topical episode, like A Farewell to Arms or Attack of the Killer App. The jokes were funny, Mom is a great villain, and Fry and Leela's relationship started to feel relevant again, if not a bit cliche. Bender's jealousy at being a third wheel when they move in together was on point, and also served to drive the main plot forward, as it should. Those side plots should serve the main plot and intersect in some way. That's the big issue I had with the honey candy at the end of, where Bender makes the honey candy in episode 2. All it did was serve up bad jokes. So I was like, what's even the point? I Know What You Did Next Xmas, while not being the funniest episode of the new season, featured a plot that centered around Bender and Zoidberg that I found fascinating. I haven't researched to check, but I don't remember another episode that has explored their relationship in this way or paired them up at the center of the main plot line. The results were delightful, as were the many callbacks and cameos from extended family members of the Futurama crew. My biggest complaint? No Gram Gram and Shabadoo. Episode 7, Rage Against the Vaccine. I was nervous about this one. I don't mind a topical episode, but COVID was so heated and political that I wished they had left it alone. In the end, though, I thought this was one of the better episodes of the season. Fry and Leela's relationship continues to feel more real. Hermes' journey through New Orleans was quite entertaining, and the parodies of life during COVID were hilarious. I almost felt a camaraderie with the creators, like, there's this thing we all went through, let's take a moment and laugh at it. While there were some political jabs, it feels like they were jabbing in all directions for the most part. Of course, that's subjective and open to interpretation. And upon a repeat watching, I didn't appreciate the episode nearly as much as the first time through. I guess I still would have preferred if they had left COVID out of the season completely. After all, I think most of us just want to forget that it happened. Season 11, Episode 8. Zapp gets cancelled. Another title that made me nervous at first, although it turned out to be a pretty run-of-the-mill episode with some chuckle-worthy jokes and a gratuitous amount of Zapp butt. It's an average plot. Zapp's a jerk. Leela feels unfulfilled in her job. There are pervy little balloon aliens. The Scarlet Letter illusion was there. They didn't do a lot with it, but there you go. All in all, nothing really stood out to me about this one, positive or negative. Oh, except that Leela takes her job way too seriously to appoint Fry as her first officer. It would have fit her personality far better to have him assigned to some unimportant post that he thinks is important. That's a small gripe, but come on, that's what I do here. Season 11, Episode 9, The Prince and the Product. This season's attempt at an anthology of interest episode. I feel like this one sounded a lot better on paper than it actually turned out. The redeeming feature is that none of it is canon. I really hope that none of it is considered canon. I mean, the segments where the characters are reimagined as toys, obviously not canon. It's like the Anthology of Interest or Naturama or any of those types of episodes where they do the 3 stories where, you reincarnate people. But there's all the connecting segments where Leela is swept off her feet by the Prince of Space and Fry fights for her right to marry him because reasons. Really dumb reasons. The whole thing is ridiculous, which would be okay if it were funny, but it's not. Even the toy segments really fail to be decent parodies of those kids' shows that are glorified toy commercials. And it occurs to me that I might like this one even less than Children of a Lesser Bog, because at least something happened in that episode. I'm gonna reshuffle. This is probably my least favorite episode, period, and Children of the Lesser Bog is my least favorite canon episode. All the way down. Season 11, Episode 10. At least the season ended on a high note. All the Way Down was the crown jewel of Season 11, combining all of the elements I talked about at the start of this review. Awesome science, deep philosophy, a solid mix of both crude and intelligent satirical humor, and real emotion-driven motivations. And one of the most thought-provoking topics that I think they've ever covered, with Fry driving things home in the end with his assertion that his love for Leela is real, even if he's not. I love this, by the way, how they kind of explain certain aspects of quantum mechanics and other things about how the universe works by comparing them to how you might cut corners if you're writing a computer simulation to make it more efficient. Brilliant. This was freaking brilliant. This scene with the where Bender's playing the ball game and the professor's talking about how his lazy software wouldn't even keep track of where the ball is until someone looks under the cups. And then, yes, of course, Fry talking about how his love for Leela is real, even if he's not. And I mean, often when I hear things like that, it's like, well, what does real mean? Even if you're simulated, does that mean you're not real? It just means that your laws of physics are you exist contingent on some other thing existing. Your reality is contingent. That doesn't mean it's not real. So much philosophical stuff we could get into with that. Do we live in a simulation? What would that even mean? What does real mean? For all the unknowns, one thing is for sure. This was one of the best episodes of the series, not just the season. In conclusion, this review was really difficult to write. My opinions on the latest 10 episodes changed as I was rewatching them to write this review. While Season 11 remains my least favorite season, I can see that my original opinions of many of its episodes had been polluted by my initial disappointment at those first 2 episodes. My second and third viewings held far more enjoyment, but not enough to completely convince me that the revival was a good idea yet. All the Way Down almost got me there, but it'll remain an open question for now. Season 12 is happening. Here's hoping the pitfalls of Season 11 were just a glitch in the simulation.